while it in some ways feels counterintuitive to be sitting in February talking about an upcoming OE, I actually think it's the time that some of these insights might be most actionable. Just to give folks listening a little bit of a preview, I mean, what we wanted to talk about today are really what are some of the keys to a successful open enrollment, and help you sort of reconcile, does that feel like what we just went through, or does that feel like something we might want to go do some tweaking for the upcoming year? We're going to talk through preparation. We're going to talk about the value of being really healthcare focused as a correspondence partner, the security and the compliance, how user friendly our applications, what does our service team look like. So just to give a little preface to the agenda, but Steve, I guess I'd almost open it broadly. 10 years of doing this on the industry side, and then 15 being with Clarity on the services side, you've seen some storms, is my guess. But I wonder how you look at open enrollment, October through January of 2021 to 2022. How did this compare? What was this year like?
It was unlike any other, and every year you can say that because open enrollment has a lot of unique characteristics each year, depending on conditions. But I truly can say that this past open enrollment period that really concluded a couple weeks ago, from an intensity perspective for everyone within the industry, was unlike any other, and a lot of it obviously had to do with the pandemic that we're still managing our way through, Drew. The interesting part is, there were a couple different, facets to it that really kind of stand out, and one is directly related to the pandemic itself, which I'll touch on. The others are sort of the macroeconomic conditions that the pandemic has caused, that I think service providers are feeling, we as consumers are feeling every day in our life. Obviously, our healthcare partners are feeling as well, all in a little bit of unique circumstances. But for this past year, one of the things that was, one of the major hurdles was you think about the staffing and the labor market, right? So we hear about it all the time. You see it when you drive down the street. There's more help wanted signs out there. There are folks willing to take the jobs. And from a communications perspective, when you think about open enrollment and the volumes that generally come through, it's very seasonally oriented. I mean, you're talking about mid-October through mid-January. And so for facilities that have to put through that type of spike or high volume communications, it takes a lot of experience and a lot of coordination. You also have to have experience in staffing and seeking up and bringing in help that can actually support that model. Because for 10 months out of the year, the demand isn't as rigorous, specifically around healthcare. So it's really important to be able to think about that and forecast. And given what's gone on with the pandemic market, obviously, the Great Resignation, you hear about it all the time. There is less folks looking to take roles. So that was certainly a facet that created a unique element this year. The supply chain is another huge, consideration. Again, we see in our daily lives with inflation going up. There's more demand. There's less availability of materials, and as you think about the communication space, there are all kinds of raw materials that play into that. There's paper. There's obviously toner or ink. There's other materials and envelopes. You name it. There's a big logistics effort that goes into planning for all of those things, and making sure that you have enough of it to support the volume that's forecasted. So given the supply chain, the slowdown in availability of materials, that's another facet that was there. And then obviously the third was the pandemic itself, I'd say. For everyone, particularly, coming into the holidays this year, the latest variant and the surge associated with that, we're still kind of coming out of it now, I think, as a country, or it's sort of moving its way across the country a little bit. There was, another instance of of COVID that really impacted a lot of folks from a health perspective. So you ended up getting call outs, you're getting folks that were sick. So you have to plan for that from a contingency perspective. So, those are huge, I think, just pandemic related challenges that have come out of OE. And,